Well, very briefly, if we go back in time to the 70s, the US government, very different from the US government today, the US government in the National Institutes of Mental Health said they would like a study done on the relationships between environments and happiness, mental health. And a group at Berkeley in California, run by Alexander, said that they were interested in the topic. So the government gave them the grant to do this study. And what's interesting, I think, for us to remember now is that when Alexander and his team took on the project, they had no idea at all how to go about it. So patterns as a research tool and then patterns as a design tool were not the start point of the study, they were actually the end result. So the development of patterns as a methodology was created by and for this grant. A second thing I think people today tend to forget is that patterns are found, they're not created. So it's like a diamond. So if you try to artificially make a diamond, it doesn't really work. I mean, you can do some things. But a real diamond, you find it, and it's the result of time and pressures from the earth. Then you get a real diamond, and you polish it, and it's beautiful. And it's the same thing with patterns. So a really good pattern is the result of lots of people, in lots of circumstances, and over lots of time. So that what you are doing as a pattern writer is you're digging, like a miner, you find a diamond in the rough, and you clean it up. But you're not creating it from scratch. And this, I think, people tend to forget. So the pattern language is 1977. And then it's a very, very long time before we get to the nature of order. So the natural question is, what was going on during all that time? And essentially, what happened with Christopher Alexander is he saw what people were doing with the pattern language, and he was disappointed. He said, this is mediocre. This is not interesting. And what he found is that people could understand a pattern, and so they would do something here and something there and something over there, but the result wasn't profound or really beautiful. It was what we call in English kind of hokey, a little funky. So his question was, what did I miss? I thought the pattern language was the answer, and it's not, because people aren't making beautiful things with it. So what happened during that kind of 30 years is that Alexander quite courageously goes back to point zero, a blank piece of paper, and says, okay, what's the answer now? And there is a connection between the pattern language and the nature of order, although many people don't see it. They buy the nature of order and they think it's going to be a pattern language plus, and it's not. It's very different, right? So the bridge is this. If you look at a pattern language, a traditional pattern language, which is really good, if you look carefully at it, it has some meta qualities. So the patterns will not be here, 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 and here. They'll be in a hierarchy. There'll be what he calls levels of scale. So a pattern at this level tells you about the pattern that's beneath it. There's a connection. They're distinct, so they're separate patterns, but there's a connection. And then there's a connection between this pattern and the one above it. So it's like that. And each pattern is what he calls a center. So each pattern, you said your favorite was the playgrounds, right? So playground is a center in a city, and a city is a center in a region. So each pattern is a center in a related hierarchy. So what he does in The Nature of Order is start to look at these meta-qualities of a good pattern language, and he starts looking at the glue. How are patterns really connected? And that was something that people were missing in their first reading. And it's also what's difficult about The Nature of Order, is that it's not an obvious topic. But that's what The Nature of Order is really about.